Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I'm about to head to bed. There's three stories I just wanted to talk about because it's just making my mind stay awake, but I can't stop thinking about it. So, Marjorie Taylor Greene announced that she will be leaving her position in January 2026. And I think a lot of us, or a few people, are experiencing Stockholm syndrome. It's where you develop a positive feeling towards your abuser, right? Because lately, in most recent history, right, in the past few months, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been one of the most loud voices calling for the release of the Epstein files and also going against Israel, um, where Democrats have been silent. Now, mind you, I am not naive in thinking that Marjorie Taylor Greene is changed. She, after all, did some terrible things and have said terrible things as well. So, in some ways, yes, I'm happy to see her go, but I think it's almost like a child who has this evil stepmom leaving. Like you're worried, like, I know my abuser. Who is going to be the person that's going to replace you? Because I'm not too hopeful that there's going to be a Democrat who comes into, her district and is able to win that election. We'll see, but the plan is from the Trump administration to get someone who's loyal to them in that position. So then I also saw that the Trump administration and the Department of Education has announced what they no longer, I can't even talk, consider professional degrees. And it's nursing, physician assistant, physical therapist, architects, accountants, educators, and social workers. Now, I find it interesting because this is coming from a party that complains about, let's say, universal health care coverage. They say there's going to be long lines, there's going to be too many people waiting for coverage. You're not going to be able to get any help. The insurance over there is terrible. Talking about Canada and other places, right? Meanwhile, what are they doing? They're cutting any of the tax credits for people who go through the Affordable Care Act to be able to afford health insurance. So now they're not going to be able to afford it and not going to have insurance. And for individuals who are going through, let's say, a transplant, if you don't have insurance, you're taken off that list. And at the same time, we're getting health insurance cut. You're stopping the flow of new nurses being able to go into the medical field because when you do this, mark it as not considered a professional degree, that limits the resources that individuals can get to get student loans or financial aid, right? Um, so it's really crazy. And it's so interesting that the Republican Party, complains about something, but all they do is destroy it. I mean, they talked about prices being high, right? And they were promoting affordability. And then what does Trump do? Introduce tariffs to make your everyday goods cost more. So, you have to pay attention. The Republicans, what they say, and is just to get your vote. When they complain about something that hits home to you, just let you know they're going to screw you over. To be honest, the Republicans have proven time and time again. I didn't need to know this, but think it's still horrifying and shocking in my heart. My mind tells me they're evil bastards, but in my heart, I feel shocked because I think that people are better and good, naturally good, but the Republican Party has just solidified how evil and cruel they are. They don't care about poor people. They don't care about the middle class. They don't care if you're sick, if you're disabled. They could give two shits about you. And, you know, my partner had a stroke, and it was really hard to find a therapist during COVID. And we had to stop for a while, and that was devastating. Right now, we're back on it. We got a new procedure to help him recovery, but it is really devastating to hear that there's going to be less resources. And this is really going to impact a lot of people. The sick, disabled, and even for education. You think about, they're talking about this great reform and going after education. They want to put Bibles. How's that helping anybody in schools? And then they're eliminating how many people can get education to become a teacher. It's crazy. The last story I just want to talk about really quickly is I've seen this movement in the LGBTQ community and amongst gay individuals, right? The LGB. And it's about anti trans rhetoric. They want to separate the LGB from the TQ, right? And individuals like Jeffree Star have come out and said this, saying, that, one is about sexual preference, one is about your personal identity, right? And then in the same kind of talking point, just like Republicans, talks about like men going into, women's bathrooms and abusing children. And I find it interesting that this is constantly used as a talking point because, one, trans people are no more likely than cisgendered people to commit abuse. In fact, 50 to 59% of trans women have experienced sexual abuse. Okay? And it's also interesting because when you look at the community that, let's say, commits abuse, the ones that we see in the news, we hear lots of abuse about priests, but no one ever gets concerned about a priest going to the bathroom with a child. You don't, I mean, considering how many stories we've seen with that compared to a trans person, which I can't recall any, committing abuse with children, you would think that everyone would be up in arms about a priest being alone with a child, especially in a bathroom. Like a male priest going into the same bathroom as a male child. I mean, crazy. And I also find it interesting that, when Jeffree Star is saying, hey, let's say in other people, right? A trans woman is a man, right? Okay, but you're saying also trans people are not part of the LGBT community. So if a trans woman who you consider a man is attracted and having sex with a man, doesn't that, in your definition, make them gay? So then they're back in the community? I mean, just make it make sense for me. To be honest, I don't care about trans people, queer people being part of the LGBT community. I don't. I think that, to tell you the truth, our differences, what's nice about the community is our diversity, right? Getting to understand each other. And in fact, many drag queens, many gay people I have seen go through their journeys of self discovery only to discover that they are trans, right? Am I trans? No. But I understand what it's like to have that moment in your life where you question yourself, where you're identifying who you are. Like when I discovered, and actually, I shouldn't say discovered, when I finally admitted to myself that I was gay, that was me opening up to learning more about myself. And the fact that a trans person wants to make a choice about their own body, I find it really interesting how people are so obsessive with the trans community. In fact, I think they said in red states, that Republican states, right? One of the largest porn searches is actually trans people, right? Want trans porn. So I find it interesting that, whenever, what's that saying? Thou protest too much, right? So that's what I'm thinking. It's like, listen, why are we following people who have proven not to be morally sound and are just closeted queens who are angry, right? Mike Johnson, as I heard some people call him, Mike Grinder Johnson. It's just so interesting, and I don't know. I see individuals like Jeffree Star, which I'm not surprised by, to tell you the truth. Considering watching his videos and seeing his beliefs and how he talks about things, I'm not surprised that Jeffree Star takes this position. I mean, a lot of people look at Jeffree Star and they say, "Oh, he's trans." He's not, right? But also, a lot of people look at Jeffree Star saying, "Oh, because he wears makeup, because he looks like that, he's the authority on trans people. He's the authority on LGBTQ community." No, he is not. I am not a trans person, so I'm not going to speak for trans people. In regards to this, I'm just, as an ally, just speaking out and calling the hypocrisy here and just calling out the flaws in the logic of like, there's this internal hate with gay people, um, and the trans community. And I see it, it's disgusting. It's this villainization that has happened to gay people, right? We have been called pedophiles, we have been called abusers, and then what do we do in turn? We then do the same to the trans community? What? I mean, come on, make it make sense. I mean, I'm tired of all the hate. I'm not sure about you. I'm tired of all the hate. I'm tired of all the divisiveness. I really want progress and I want a better tomorrow for all of us. Why do we have to fight with each other? Why don't you mind your own business? And they're like, well, I'm going to the bathroom. I'm sorry. I hate using public bathrooms. Why? I think that, to tell you the truth, a large room with separate stalls that you're if you're going to the bathroom, right, you're going to do your business. And if you've had like you had Taco Bell, like you're lactose intolerant like me, if you need to use the bathroom, last thing you want to do is be in there with somebody else. Like you're tooting up a storm and you're like, okay, how do I leave this bathroom? I can't even look at anybody right now after the noise I just made in this bathroom, right? I mean, come on. I I don't understand when people say, let's, you know, things should go back to the way they were. Okay, the way they were originally, we were all shitting in a forest. So there was no walls, right? Somebody dug a hole and then they shit in that hole. Okay? So let's go back to that. So everybody in the forest, let's go shit in our holes. I don't know, but I just find it so ridiculous. It's infuriating. You know, I was like, I don't know who's paying attention to who in the bathroom, right? I mean, even in like in movies when they're having a sex scene in like a bathroom, or even if like you're like, let's say like a porn too, right? Sex in a bathroom. I was like, that's disgusting. Like, why would anyone want to have sex in a bathroom? I saw like, for example, like people would hook up at bathrooms or the glory hole in a bathroom. I'm sorry. Do you know how much poo particles are floating in this bathroom? I do not want to put my mouth around a hole in a bathroom stall. That's disgusting. I mean, especially one of those park bathrooms, okay? Have no idea how often they clean that, right? And to tell you the truth, I think that's the bathroom where people just go and probably have the most worst diarrhea ever. And I don't know. I mean, I've gone to the bathroom stalls and I'm like, oh my God. It's like Goldilocks. You're like, can I find the one that's just right? Because there's one with, it's backed up, has pee in it, and there's lots of toilet paper. Oh, I don't want that. Then there's one that is piled so much of shit, and then there's toilet paper everywhere, and there's shit smeared on the wall, and you're like, oh my God, that's disgusting. And then there's the one that smells like shit, but it looks clean. Okay? You know, I just don't understand like why people think that bathrooms are the place that people want to hook up. I just don't understand. I don't get it. Anyways, that's all I have to say before I go to bed. I hope you're doing well. I know I probably just grossed you all out. Sorry. Bye.